Hello everyone, and welcome to our webinar on automating every step of your e-commerce operations. I'm Lyndsay McGregor from XSellco, and I'm joined today by Chad Rubin, founder and CEO of Skubana, which is an all-in-one ERP system and operations platform. For those of you who don't know XSellco, we're a leading provider of support, repricing, and feedback software for e-commerce sellers. Today we're going to talk a little bit about how automating tasks that clog up your day can not only save you time so you can get back to the real work of running your online store, but also cut operational costs and grow your business. I'll hand it over to Chad in just a second, but before we get started, I wanted to let you know that if you have any questions during the presentation, you can hit the Q&A tab in the toolbar at the top of your screen, type the questions into the box that pops up, and Chad will answer as many of them as he can at the end. So Chad is actually the perfect person to talk to about automation. He's renowned in e-commerce circles for taking his own direct-to-consumer business from zero to a $20 million valuation in just 7 years. Chad, you obviously know a couple of things that others don't. And lucky for everyone tuning into today's webinar, you're going to share some tips and tricks that could quadruple your revenue. So Chad, welcome.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you for joining us. For anyone who doesn't know your backstory, can you start off by telling us a little bit more about how you got into selling online?
Yeah, of course. So for those that don't know me, my name is Chad. I started selling on Amazon in 2007, 2008, helping my parents. They had a brick and mortar vacuum store and they were constantly struggling to make ends meet. So I grew up in an environment where we were constantly struggling to make ends meet. I was a first-generation college grad. I went to work on Wall Street, and I started covering internet stocks. And that's how I discovered internet, e-commerce, and Amazon's marketplace. Okay. So I joined very early on in the marketplace before it was saturated the way it is today. And I started a direct-consumer vacuum filter company called Crucial Vacuum that has grown tremendously. And out of that came me building Skubana and co-founding it with DJ, who's my partner, and we built a operation software for high-performing sellers that want to automate their business.
Cool.
So I'm really focused, number one, on doing things that others aren't doing, but also automating as much as I can with technology and with freelancers and outsourcing a lot of work. And that's what we're going to talk about today, how to automate your operations.
Okay, Chad, you mentioned a little bit there about your vacuum business, and you took it to an 8-figure e-commerce business, and you're a top 500 Amazon seller. I know that wasn't always the case. Can you talk us through the early days and when exactly you knew you needed to make a major change to your business?
Yeah, so when I first started, I was just helping my parents, and they had excess inventory they wanted to unload, so I was really reselling. Okay. And I found that reselling was kind of like playing musical chairs. If I didn't win the buy box, somebody else would. I was competing against others, and the price constantly was being dropped. Yeah. So I was lucky enough, I was probably at the right time at the right place, but also had the insight to want to go direct to consumer. Mm-hmm. So I started Crucial as a direct to consumer brand, manufacturing vacuum accessories and selling them direct online. Mm-hmm. And I think that was the first step of doing what others weren't doing because nobody was doing it at the time. And now that has evolved into this coined term of private labeling, yeah, which I like to call just branding. And that was the genesis of how I started Crucial.
Cool. All right. That was back in 2007, you said?
2007 is when we started like reselling, but I actually incorporated in 2009.
Okay. The internet was a way different place back then, I think, e-commerce as well. You've obviously seen it evolve over time. What's that been like?
So, yeah, I mean, look, the thing I love about e-commerce is that everything that you learn now expires in anywhere from 2 to 3 to 4 months. So you have to constantly be learning and constantly be improving your business in order to win, in order to stay on top. Because everybody wants, especially when you get large, everyone wants a piece of market share. Mm-hmm. And I've actually learned, and I think this is what I like to incorporate in this presentation, is that anyone can private label a product, right? Anyone can knock it off, mm-hmm, but to actually innovate and to build a system it becomes much, much harder to duplicate a system. And if you actually develop a system, then you can actually automate a lot of your operations and work on just growth. So those that are listening right now, you know that you're in the right place. You're taking an hour out of your day. And if you're looking to replace yourself with automation and get back time that you never had before, if you want to grow your business more sustainably and get it more operationally sound, we're going to go through every single tip that I've learned to make it happen.
Let's do it.
Cool. So, like I said, when I first started, things didn't look the way they look today. Like, my warehouse was an absolute jungle. I didn't have any bin locations, any picking locations on any of my products. It was completely disorganized. And now it's quite efficient, right? I've worked on building an efficient, scalable operation that was plug and play, right? So 7 million in revenue, 2 employees. I'm a top 500 seller, not just on Amazon, but on 18, 19 other channels.
Wow.
So shortly I'll be revealing every tool and tactic that I'm using to run my business so that you can sell smarter. So one of the things that we focus on, because we're in such a competitive environment right now with all these sellers that are using these validation tools to figure out what's selling on Amazon and how to rip it off and make it as well, we focus on going to where the puck is going. We focus on going to the white, I guess they call it blue ocean, the areas where it's untapped markets.
Okay.
So a lot of our growth comes from creative processes that are innovative to increase our SKU count. So on average, we're increasing SKU count 87% each year.
Wow.
We do it with 2 employees. I think that's like the beauty of it, is that we're running such a large business with 2 employees across 20 channels. So if you look at the scale of how we're adding product, right, we have about 767 products that we have.
Wow.
Across 20 channels. We have 3,000 listings, over 3,000 listings now. And all of that is about being efficient and working on higher value activities, getting rid of the low value, repetitive, mundane tasks.
Okay.
So, when I started thinking about how do you win, how do you build a system and win and beat competitors who aren't doing it? And I'm sure I've got competitors listening right now and I welcome it. But how do you win? Well, there's really 3 ways to win. And it's not just by working harder. It's not about working harder, it's about working smarter.
Mm-hmm.
And the 3 ways to do it is to build in a system. So the first thing is you really would want to optimize, then automate, then outsource. And when I start talking about optimization, which is the first lever, it's about actually looking at yourself first, looking at where you spend the most amount of your time. So what I did was I spent 2 weeks building out a calendar and thinking about where am I spending my time? What do I like doing? What do I hate doing? What am I really good at? And I do the same thing with all my employees, but it all started with me first. Now, for the employees, it's really about starting a monthly listening tour and having them itemize and jot down exactly where they spend their time. Because when I have these weekly stand-up meetings, employees would say, Chad, I have so much going on. I don't have the time. I don't have the capacity to take on this, to get it done. And I've always thought that time should never be a bottleneck to getting anything done. You're with me so far?
Yeah, I am. What do you mean there? Like, what kind? Do you have examples of these things that your employees said they didn't have the time to do?
Why? I mean, it could be anything from like looking at profitability across all our channels to because the thing is that most of us are working on things that we shouldn't be working on. So you can quickly identify. That's why I start with optimization of yourself first. Identifying what you should be doing, what's going to give you the highest ROI, and what you should not be doing.
Okay, gotcha.
So I think that's really where it all starts. And then you start working on it with your employees. Where are your employees spending their time, and how could you automate? That's the next lever with technology, and then outsource these lower value repetitive things so that you can have your team working on higher value activities. So the next point really is about that not all work is created equally. And let's explore that for a second. So if you look at the quadrant at the bottom right, high effort, low impact, it's a waste of time. It's like going to get drinks for your office at ShopRite. Right? So you don't want to be spending your time doing that, because every second that you spend doing that, you could be actually doing something else that actually is going to have a higher impact on your company.
Mm-hmm.
The next quadrant is something like low effort, low impact. That's, to me, is like doing emails. I call it housekeeping. Okay. So it's sort of a mundane task, something that typically, I actually like to do my tasks that revolve around daylight and nighttime. So like all my creative juices are flowing in the morning. That's where I do higher value activities. But something that's low effort, low impact, even though I shouldn't be doing it, I do need to respond to some emails. I'm going to talk about my email flow in a second.
Okay.
But emails, to me, is housekeeping and should be done either in the late afternoon or evening, or you shouldn't be doing it at all, which we'll talk about in the outsourcing segment.
Okay.
And then you've got high impact, low effort. And that's bite-sized snacks that are maybe quick wins, but aren't going to give you the highest ROI in your business. So for me, I focus all my time as much as I can, and I'm just a human being, right? So I try to spend most of my time high impact, high effort. To me, those are home runs, not base hits. Those are home runs, and those are going to make the most money for our business.
Cool.
And don't forget, I run two businesses, right? I've got my the Crucial business, but I also have Skubana. I also wrote a book. I'm also a co-founder of the Prosper Show. So I have so many things going on. And
you have to automate. You've no choice. You need to. Exactly.
But I start refusing requests that eat away at my time.
Okay. And how do you do that?
Well, firstly is you have to understand, what do you want to be doing or what you shouldn't be doing? What do you hate doing? What do you suck at? And by divvying that up, and you can create a chart and just whiteboard, what's the thing that's going to actually make you the most money, and start figuring out a strategy, which we're going to talk about in terms of automation and outsourcing those tasks.
All right.
So before you outsource, because you don't want to outsource an inefficient task, mm-hmm. and you don't want to outsource something that technology can actually do for you. So I like to start with, what can I use technology to automate these mundane, repetitive tasks? This is every single tool that I use to run and automate my business.
That's a lot.
It's a lot of tools.
A lot of tools. Wow.
And remember, I have 2 employees.
Chad, how did you, just to skip back to these tools again, how did you hear about or find all of these? There's so many here, and like you said, you're just one person and you have 2 employees. Who points you in the direction of these tools? How did you find them? Was it just a lot of online research? Did you A/B test a few?
Well, I think it all comes down to solving problems. So when we have a problem that needs to be solved, that's when we think to ourselves, okay, can we use technology to solve this problem? And then if we can't use technology, can we use a freelancer or a virtual assistant somewhere overseas to help us get the ball down the court? Mm-hmm. So, but always it starts with scratching an itch that we have. And so like repricing, right? When I first started on Amazon, there was no repricer out there. Okay. So for repricing, right, you guys now developed XSellco for repricing. So I used to go in manually, and mm-hmm. then I figured out, okay, let's see if we can find technology that'll automate this. So the other thing is also, just getting back to optimization, is saying no. And that's something that I've also learned, is saying no to things that refusing requests and letting people down gently because it's not a good use of my time. Mm-hmm. And part of this slide, my co-founder and partner, DJ, he always said, Chad, the best developers are those that are the laziest, because they figure out engineering tactics to automate what they would have had to do manually. And so then I thought to myself, how do I actually implement apps that can automate what humans are forced to do? So from automation, then we'll go to outsource.
Okay.
I have made a ton of mistakes in the outsourcing world. In fact, the first time I tried to outsource, I didn't have a blueprint. I didn't have a game plan. I just tried it and I failed miserably. I think my first virtual assistant, I spent at least 2 whole days training that individual, only to have them say, this isn't working out. Then I got smart. So let's go back to this board here. This Zoom right here, which is actually what we're using for this webinar, is a great way to train people and record it so that now you have everything on file. And when you want to onboard the next person, guess what? You just send them a Dropbox link with the Zoom recording and you don't have to constantly repeat yourself. So outsourcing.
Yes.
So most people want to get more things done when they start to outsource instead of getting their own stuff done. They immediately start saying, okay, what more can we accomplish? But really, you need to start letting go of what's on your plate currently to free up some mind space so that you can actually work on some higher value activities. So what I first started with was my own day-to-day. And now all my employees get a VA. So some companies like Google give out holistic water. Here at my company, we give out virtual assistants. It's like a perk of being on the job. Here's 3 different sites. I have a preference on Upwork.
Okay.
So I can actually manage and see, let me go back. I can actually manage and see screenshots and diaries of all the work that's being performed across all the virtual assistants. And we have about 20 outsourced freelancers that are best in class, and we split them up based on roles and tasks. I look for people that are in the Philippines. Number one, not because I'm cheap, but because it's cost effective. And I find that they have accent neutrality there because they are the actually BPO, the business processing outsourced epicenter of the world. So the things I'm looking for on the left, English speaking, I'll get them to actually do part of my job post. I'll have them do a video for me just to get a sense of what their accent, if there is accent neutrality. I'd like to see if they're organized. So perhaps I'll ask them what technologies that they're using. I look at the reviews. That's another nice part about using Upwork, is that they have a tremendous amount of reviews and you can see what their price point they were being paid out before. And then you can get samples of their work as well. So when it comes to administrative tasks, I'm always looking to the Philippines.
Okay. How do you cope with like the time zone differences? Has that ever been an issue?
All of our assistants work on Eastern time, which is where I'm located.
Okay.
So it's an issue if the person doesn't. So one of the things you want to put in your post is making sure they can work on Eastern time.
Okay.
Very, very important. I want them working the same time that I'm working because we're using other communication tools and we're doing it real time, like Slack, for example. I just want to get things done while I'm working, not while I'm not working.
Yeah.
It's all about structure as well. We split up our role. We have roles and we have tasks. So a role to me is I have 2 personal assistants. Both of them are in the Philippines and in Krish. And their role is to do sort of everything that happens throughout the entire day. It could be updating my social media. It could be helping to edit this PowerPoint. It could be perhaps scheduling on the calendar, going through my emails. In fact, I've automated and outsourced most of my email process through our flag and tag process that we've created internally that I'm going to share in this webinar. Even research, someone asked about research. A lot of that is happening with our role assistants. But when it comes to very specialized tasks, we outsource those to those that are actually doing it the best. For example, blog writing. You have people that are just focusing on copywriting, or people that are just focused on creating backlinks for our business, or doing our QuickBooks. We use QuickBooks Online. We outsource our bookkeeping tasks we used to spend $14,000 a year on bookkeeping. And now we have automated it, and we're saving 70% of that.
Wow.
And that bookkeeper actually found mistakes of the US-based bookkeeper that I had, and I was paying my accounting service to do.
Wow.
And then, of course, with technology, we automate the filing with Taxify, the filing of our sales tax nexus. And so we're trying to just, again, automate, outsource as much as we can.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
But this is what I've realized is how we produce results is with this structure that I'm showing you today.
Cool.
This slide.
This is an important one.
So like, here's an example of some job posts. Some of it got cut off, but you can see seeking part-time bookkeeper, building an FAQ page, looking for an AdWords master, finding an efficient virtual assistant who has hustle, patent specialist, all of this kind of stuff. The things that you wouldn't even think that you can outsource, believe it or not, you could outsource it.
Has there been anything that you've tried to outsource that you didn't think you would be able to and you were shocked that you could?
I mean, everything we're looking at here, I mean, you look at patent research, bookkeeping. I know, like as a CEO of 2 different businesses, I get 4, and we'll talk about this more, I get 4,000 emails a month.
Okay.
And so that's where I'm spending a lot of my time, where I was, and being able to actually get that off my plate and letting somebody else help me with email flow. So if you email me after this webinar, you will get my VA, right? However, it does have oversight for me, but it's been extremely helpful for me to alleviate so I can get more stuff done in the day. That's what it's all about.
Okay. We just got one question that came in that I think would be great if you could answer right now. Someone said, is there anything you attempted to outsource that didn't work?
So anything that's a very high impact, high value. So one of the things we don't outsource is creating of listings on Amazon or anywhere else, right? We do that in-house. Why? Is because we can build a better listing that's far more optimized to sell than having somebody that's not native to our language building that listing. So we're very picky about what's going to make us the most money. Like sourcing for me, we don't want to give that away. We don't want to outsource that.
Yeah.
So I think those are 2 great examples. Okay. I've also made mistakes, right? Like, so outsourcing my sponsored ads, I'd hired a gentleman who I was referring a lot of people to, and I stopped. For me, I didn't want my team working on sponsored ads. So I finally figured out, I found the right person, the right team, which is homerev.com. They do all my PPC sponsored ads optimization to help us make more money. And so that's something that I didn't want my team doing internally. I made a mistake by outsourcing it to another company, but I knew that that was the weakness. And knowing your weakness can be your biggest strength. Like I said, the thing that I spend a lot of time on was going through emails. I get a lot of them. Mm-hmm. So I developed a system, Flag and Tag, that essentially gave me back my entire day every day. So before you can outsource something, like I said, you have to optimize it and just reflect on it. And I use an app to reflect on it. It's kind of funny, called Gmail Meter.
Okay.
And Gmail Meter essentially connects to my Gmail and will analyze what's happening. So this is the kind of report they'll give you. This is just one small segment of information. It's for free.
Oh,
so
wow.
you see here I received, this is real information, 4,469 messages received.
Wow.
So if you look here though, you'll see where I'm being CC'd, right? So I'm being CC'd on a lot of messages. So I start analyzing who are the most people that are sending me emails, and how do I actually alleviate that? Mm-hmm. And most of them were coming internally from my own employees.
Fire them. I'm kidding.
No, we moved everything to Slack. So Slack is like AOL from I guess I'm dating myself, but it's like AOL from the 90s, instant messaging for entrepreneurs. Mm-hmm. Right? Internally, it's like an intranet. And so Slack for me, is a way that I can communicate without actually having all the heavy weight of being either CC'd on emails or even just getting more email flow in my box. So we've been able to reduce that dramatically by just using Gmail Meter and analyzing, well, where is my time going with emails?
Cool.
Now, once you get rid of your employees emailing you and you take things offline using Slack and Trello, if you go to the right here, we developed a flag and tag system. And it's quite easy. It's just a flow that I've created. So if you look at Gmail and you go to your settings, you go to General on the tab, you can see these stars that I have in use. So you can star emails, flag them, tag them. So green is for my VA, my VA for this inbox. Red is something urgent that needs to be responded to right away. An arrow pointing towards the email is a to-do item. Purple is essentially for my other VA to either maybe watch a webinar or record something or to do some other task. And blue is actually for the two VAs to talk to each other about. Okay. So this is just my own system. You can label, you can flag, tag anything you want. This is just the system that I'm using today and how I gain back parts of my life. So if you look here in this is just an example of my inbox, right? You see here, we're starring things, they're being pointed arrows, but I love a zero inbox. So the idea is that at the end of every day, there should not be any email in the inbox awaiting for me. It should be completely cleared out. And if there's anything waiting for me, right, something I actually need to do or it's urgent or needs to get done, or maybe it just becomes something I do leisurely after I get done the highest, most impactful tasks.
So you basically get to inbox zero every day.
That's the idea, right?
Okay.
In theory, we're supposed to be getting there, but if there's something that's pointing towards me or you get to 5 p.m., there might be something that's awaiting my approval and I need to approve it. Like someone may email me from the webinar and most likely I'm gonna probably want to just look at it, take a look at it. Perhaps they may ask some complex questions that they can't answer that I'll go in and quote unquote fluff it up, right? Add the personal touch and give the gold nugget that's needed to help the individual that's emailing me.
All right, cool. We are, just a quick time check, Chad. We're running, the clock is starting to tick down a little bit. So let's just move along a little bit more.
Okay. But the idea is you don't want to be reactive and you can get stuck getting interrupted all the time. And so how do you act? Like that's why most people get the most done when they're on airplanes, so they're not interrupted. So let the inbox work for you, let your VAs work for you, do your daily grind, and then make the highest impact. So there's a little joke. Filters aren't just for vacuums, right? We use filters to filter out the inbox. So if we're getting certain emails from certain individuals, right, we can have those filtered automatically so that they're not actually weighing down my inbox. Canned responses, at least for me personally, right? We have certain canned responses that we can use if I'm constantly getting the same question in an email. So we use canned responses to either maybe say no to somebody, maybe say it's not a priority, to not be reactive and just say, you know what, I'm sorry, I just don't have the time to do this right now. But you can create as many canned responses as you want. Just, again, look at your inbox and see what are all the emails that you're getting and how do you actually stop having to type hello or thank you very much, or a lot of these small things that every single time you do a keystroke, you lose a second of your life. So the other thing that comes along with having freelancers and finding outsourced professionals, not just saving money, saving time, saving hair loss, right, is being a master of delegation. You have to be able to delegate. And so this is how I organize my Trello board. It doesn't come like this. So the backlog is everything that needs to happen, right? I just throw ideas in there. But then we actually prioritize those ideas, and the top become the most urgent, and we rigorously prioritize it. And then from backlog, they take them like a piece of paper. If you have a stack of papers, you take the first paper and you put it in the to-do column. So the most urgent the things that are the highest impact, move into the to-do column. And then I can actually watch without any like micromanaging things getting done without my complete oversight. And I can just check in, and you can assign different cards to different people in the organization and watch things getting done without your oversight.
Okay.
Yeah. So, we can have we'll have a marketing Trello board. We will have a listing Trello board, or we'll have a company-wide stand-up meeting Trello board of where things need to get done. And this, like I said, this is the system that we use that lets things to happen without us having to micromanage it. So some of the inspiration for this webinar, one was virtual freedom. So virtual freedom was very, very instrumental in helping me figure out what to outsource, how to make it happen, and how to do it successfully, which was kind of like an iteration off the 4-hour work week. It brought a lot of these concepts, but really drilled in on these concepts that I'm talking about today. So that was part of the inspiration. Essentialism is a book. It's all about saying no and how you can actually get 2 hours back of your day.
From saying no? By
saying no, yes.
Wow.
And then Cheaper, Easier, Direct is a book that I wrote, which is really about my journey and the game plan of a blueprint of how I private label products and bring them to market. It's, of course, no surprise, on Amazon. Would love people to check it out as well.
Alrighty. Somebody wants to know, is there a way to automate products that you can, in a way that you can see if it does well in a certain marketplace?
Yeah, so that's what I was referring to, I think, very, very briefly. I was talking about validating. Yeah. Everyone's very concerned with validating. Now, one of the things I like to do is I like to just read. First of all, you can use like Unicorn Smasher. It's a free Chrome app. It'll tell you the sell-through. I don't know how exactly accurate it is. Maybe there's a 10 or 15% delta on some of their information, but at least it'll give you some idea of a gauge of what the unit sell-through is and what the revenue sell-through is. But I would spend more time looking at just Amazon's database in general and looking at the negative reviews. So finding a product, fine, great. Finding a niche, even better. Going into that niche and actually looking at all the negative reviews of how you can actually iterate on that product. So you're not just a Me Too product anymore, you're actually innovating and iterating on that product. And I think that's what a lot of sellers, like there's over 75,000 toilet paper holders on Amazon.
Wow.
We don't need a 75, we don't need another one, right? There's too many. So finding markets that are niches that are, where there's margin for you to capitalize on is very, very important. And looking at negative reviews and seeing what people hate about a product helps you build a better listing and build a better product, iterate on it, even charge a premium on it, and not have to compete.
Okay, great. Another question we have is, how did outsourcing fulfillment affect your operations and time allocation?
So that's a great question. So when I first started, the jungle that I was referring to is I was managing 25 warehouse employees, and I didn't have a system in place. So I actually found a warehouse to outsource to, and feel free to email me if you want recommendations for outsourced warehouses. They're called third-party logistics centers. Not everybody understands the Amazon world, or even the marketplace world, or even just the selling on online world. So I'm happy to help guide that if you email me. But yeah, outsourcing changed my entire life. I was pre-diabetic, I was overweight, and I was only managing one business at the time. And by outsourcing it, I became a customer versus managing employees, and it allowed me to work on things that are helping build my business, right? Which is like the most important thing, right? Branding, finding new product, etc.
Yeah, that's why we're all here. Another question we have is, this person says they're a manufacturing plant, so their model is to do everything in-house, and outsourcing is a bad word to this person's boss. How can you phrase it in a way that it's not a bad word?
Outsourcing is a bad word. Well, give them a book for the holidays, right? Virtual Freedom, or my book.
Okay.
On top of that, apply for a consultation session and let's spend a little time understanding what those fears are about outsourcing. Because I think people are fearful of losing control, but I think it actually gives me more control in a way, right? It allows me to actually decide what I want to do, what I shouldn't be doing, what I hate doing, and it lets my employees, it creates more happy employees. So that question, I think, is driven out of fear. And so how can we sort of absolve that fear and remove it from being a obstruction of productivity?
Okay. This question, I guess, is kind of related to privacy issues. How do you assure that your proprietary and confidential information that comes through your email is not being shared with that your VA isn't sharing it with competitors?
Well, firstly, you can have a non-compete, but a lot of it comes into actually finding the right people. It all comes down to talent. And so, like for me, I like to create autonomy and I like to have trusted people inside my organization. If you don't trust individuals, I don't know how you're going to be able to grow. So like you need to constantly be giving away your job, like as CEO or running your business or whatever role you're in, you need to give away your tasks so that you can actually grow and elevate your career. So I think it comes down to finding the right people, talent, having a non-compete in place, and trusting individuals to help you grow.
Okay, great. And then this is kind of a follow-up from somebody else, kind of similar. What sort of legal protections do you have should a VA? What sort of legal protections do you have in place, Chad, should a VA cause a mistake that causes a huge issue with your business? The way you can go after an accounting firm in the US, can you do the same overseas, or are there different rules that apply?
So I don't outsource my accounting, I outsource the bookkeeping.
Yeah.
Two is using Upwork. They actually take screenshots of every person's computer that's doing work for us every 15 minutes. So there's a level of accountability there. And I can go review, they call them work diaries. I can actually go review them daily, weekly. I can go back to a certain day and see what that person was doing. If there's certain things that they shouldn't be doing, maybe they're looking at, they're talking on Google Chat or Google Hangouts, or so there is complete accountability there. Again, it comes down to finding the right people to get the job done. And sometimes maybe if you think that you're scared about certain things getting out into the world, then don't outsource that task, right? Save that as a higher value activity for somebody that you trust internally. And maybe you don't want to just outsource everything all at the same time. Just focus on small, get a base hit. You don't need to hit a triple. Maybe hit a double, hit a single, get onto base, and I think that'll help you get into the swing and find your swagger in terms of outsourcing.
Great. This, I think, is going to be our final question.
Okay.
What percentage of your budget do you allocate to outsourcing for your organization?
I don't do it on a budget basis, and again, I don't do it for cost savings because we're actually trading dollars. But at the end of the day, I find the best people globally to support my business.
Okay.
It's about finding talent. It's not about saving. Like there are certain people that spend $2. They try to find something in the Philippines for $2 an hour. Like this isn't the 1920s anymore, or the 1930s. So I actually pay my VA a salary, $10, $9 an hour, which is competitive in the United States. It's not actually so far off, but they live like queens and kings in the Philippines. It goes a long way. So that base that I give them, actually, I get the most amount of work. I use honey versus vinegar, and I try to find people that can creatively think. Like my other, if you buy my book, you'll see I give a shout out to my VA in the book because that person is my other half when it comes to like my brain and helps me accomplish things I wouldn't be able to accomplish in an everyday by myself.